What's up? What's up? What's up? You're listening to the S3. I'm JD. She is Lady M. We got a really good show for you today. We've got the host of The Zone from Sports Radio 810 out of Kansas City, Mr. Jason Anderson, joins the show in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to be talking the Chiefs and if they can bounce back against the Miami Dolphins this weekend after a bad loss that completely screwed up my six-team parlay on Sunday. All they had to do was cover 6.5. Definitely going to talk to him about that. That game, by the way, this Sunday is taking place in Frankfurt, Germany, which means kickoff out here on Sunday with the time change and everything. I think it's 7:30 a.m., which means I'll be up watching it. Lady M, probably not.
I'll hear about it later.
Yeah, about later. You hear me complaining because they already started the day by blowing my parlay that I'm putting together. Anyways, that game will be shown on NFL Network. So we've got Jason coming on here. Plus, we've got our locks of the week as we take a look at the rest of the week 9 schedule. I went perfect 6-0 last week. You not so much, but we did get the same 3 right. I'll give you that. 6. I get all 6. I'm just going to keep throwing that out there. Plus, we've got Football Origins, the return of Football Origins. Lady M, who are you talking about this week?
Kansas City Chiefs.
We got the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, it's appropriate. We got the Chiefs guy coming on. Yep. So that should be fun. But before we get into all that, let's, as always, give a shout out to our main sponsor, Heroes Media Group. For more information on how to launch your podcast and your brand, please go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. What's next?
Headlines and yo mama jokes.
Yo mama. All right, headline number 1. Raiders clean house, fire head coach Josh McDaniels, along with the general manager and the offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator Antonio Pierce will take over as interim head coach. Raiders also bench Jimmy G. They're going to start rookie O'Connell.
Wow.
I mean,
that's a lot of big shuffling.
We watched that game. At the end of the game, Devontae Adams did not look happy. He only had 2 catches the entire game. That's another one of my single game parlays. I picked him to have at least 5 catches. Like, come on now. Jacoby Myers, picked him to have 5 catches. He had 1.
Definitely need to be using Jacoby more. We've seen what he can do. I'm still mad we let him go.
Yeah, especially now, like Kendrick Bourne's hurt for the Patriots and everything. We could definitely use some more Jacoby. Oh, God. This is terrible. Antonio Pierce, by the way, he's the interim head coach, which basically means he's the head coach until they find a new head coach.
Yeah.
He could be the next head coach, depending on what he does, but they'll probably find somebody else. Antonio Pierce was the defensive coordinator out here for Arizona State under Herm Edwards, but then everything happened with the whole COVID controversy and them having visitors. So like the entire coaching staff went away for Arizona State. And like, so he went from defensive coordinator for a bad Arizona State team. Now he's the head coach in the NFL for the Raiders, interim wise anyway. So not bad. Not a bad 1.5 year transition. Bad college team, head coach in the NFL. Who knew? All right. Lady M, bring it. Bring it. What do you have to say about my mama? What are you saying?
Your mama is so fat. When she walked past the TV, I missed 3 episodes.
Oh, damn. All right. That's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is big for her because that's like the rudest thing she's ever said to me. Like, we don't argue. Like, even our discussions are like, all right, agree to disagree. That's pretty much how they are. So I'm trying to get her to open up. Yeah, I'm trying to make my girlfriend mean. That's basically what I'm trying to do.
I am a mature adult who can handle when people disagree, sir.
All right. Headline number 2, Falcons are benching Ritter for Heineke. We had Joe Madden on our show, and she was talking about like the last loss that they had where Ritter fumbled going in the end zone. She was talking about how Ritter just didn't even look like he cared anymore, and
Yeah.
the steps, and now he's benched. Heineke's
Yeah.
taken over, going up against the Vikings. We'll talk about the Vikings here in a little bit as well. All right, my turn. You ready for this?
Sure.
My mama's so fat. Your mama's so fat. Before God said, "Let there be light," he asked her to move out of the way. Take that. All right. Headline number 3. Despite Kirk Cousins' season-ending injury, Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell says he would prefer Cousins to return in 2024. So, I mean, that's Cousins' job to lose, and the only way he's lost it is by a season-ending injury. So, like he'll get it back. According to the head coach, they love him there. I mean, you got good stuff with Addison. You've got great stuff when he's healthy or when he gets healthy with Jefferson.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the biggest problem is not the offense in Minnesota. It's always been the defense. So get a good
Yeah.
defense out there. Kirk Cousins can possibly take you back to being NFC North champions. Yeah.
Although
Who
I
knew?
do think they're a bit I think Jefferson's mismatched. I think he could form a dream team of the equivalency of Mahomes and Kelsey if he had the right
If he had the right
guy
quarterback.
paired up with him. Yeah.
All right.
Just throwing
It's
that
not
out there.
so who like would you who would he have to go to? Maybe like a Geno Smith. Maybe they can work that trade. Maybe
Yeah, maybe.
Jackson. I mean, as much as I love Jackson and I know he's heating up Jackson Smith and Jigba up in Seattle, maybe pair Jackson with like another one of the receivers, maybe Metcalf,
Yeah.
send them to Minnesota, send Jefferson to Seattle. Maybe that might work. No way he's coming down here to the Valley. There's
No.
no way the Arizona Cardinals on like they could give up the house. They
No.
don't even have a house to give up.
I
That's
mean,
the
the
thing.
Vikings won't let him go if they have a choice in it because
Oh no. If they're
he's their
smart,
hot potato.
he's there.
I think he could be more than what he is if he was teamed up with the
More than last year, he led the universe last year in receiving. So I mean, like I know for a fact he led like fantasy points for
yeah.
receivers. So, I mean, he had to be doing pretty damn good. Yeah, he had like 1,800, 1,860 or something like that receiving.
That's true. It's
With
just
a,
that maybe, like you said, since their defense just lets the other team do whatever they want.
yeah, I think what you're referring to is he could win more
Yeah.
with another quarterback.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as putting the points up, I mean, when he's on the field, Cousins throws to him all the time.
That's
Even
true.
though, like right now, with the emergence of Addison's got what 7, 8, 9 touchdowns right now as a rookie.
Right.
Maybe, I mean, maybe he should worry even when he comes back being healthy. Maybe he should be worried about losing some of his touches.
I would like to see him. Don't shoot. You know who I'm a fan of, but
Yeah.
On the Eagles.
What? What? I'm sorry. That
would be the one that I think would do the best with Jefferson, but
something's wrong with my headphones. I thought you just said something
on the
stupid.
Vikings for now.
Yeah, something's wrong with my headphones. I swear to God, you just said something stupid.
The birds.
So, oh my God, the Eagles have enough. The Eagles don't need Jefferson unless they compile.
I said they would do well. That's all.
I mean, they would do well. I mean, there's a lot of places he would do well. I mean, if you pair him up with Tyreek Hill in Miami,
yeah.
You know, Tua would love that. There's a lot of he'd be great in Kansas City. Like if there's one team that could actually use a true number one that is a sure fit competitor to actually go to the big game, it would be the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Because right now, outside of Travis Kelce, you've got Rice, you've got Moore, and you've got a bunch of receivers that are just they're okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't even put Moore in the he's okay, but I mean he's decent. So yeah, I mean if there is a team that should go after in the future that should go after Jefferson, I would say pair up Mahomes with Justin Jefferson? Absolutely. Where are we at? Your turn.
To hit you.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yo mama's so dumb, it takes her an hour to cook minute rice.
My mom was a great cook. All right. So that I just don't believe. My mom was a great cook. My foster mom was a great cook. I've never actually had my real mom cook me a meal. So I don't think so. No, even when I went home for Christmas, like it was just a visit. It wasn't a meal. So yeah, I've never actually had my real mom's cooking. So there is that. So maybe, who knows? You may be accurate. You may be right on point. All right. 2 quarterbacks take home the Week 8 Offensive Players of the Week. Joe Burrow for the AFC and Jalen Hurts for the NFC. Joe Burrow, like the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe, have now won 3 or 4 straight.
Okay.
They look like the Bengals that I picked to go to the big game.
Yeah.
I did match them up against, and I said they would beat the 49ers in this year's big game, and they beat the 49ers last week. So I'm looking pretty damn good right now for my predictions, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not bad at all. Yo mama jokes. All right, my turn. All right. So, Lady M. God, this is mean. Yo mama's so old, when she walks out of the museum, all the alarms go off. Your mom is so sweet. She is. She's absolutely sweet. She's highly intelligent. Like if I came out and said, your mom is so dumb, she got fired from the M&M's factory for throwing away all the W's. I got one more. Okay, so your mom is so old, when she went to school, there was no history to teach.
Ha.
I love it. I absolutely love it. While we're waiting on our guests to come in, we're waiting on him to show up. Should be any minute now. Like there's quite a bit going on. What are your thoughts about the NFL for the next 2 weeks having their games in Germany? You lived in Germany. Does it seem like a football audience?
Oh, that was not something. What I got asked about the most was David Hasselhoff. he's still really big over there. They loved his music. He put out an album, I guess, at one point in time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I wonder how that album did. I mean, in
Germany, it did really, really well. Over here, I didn't even know he made an album.
I mean, maybe they'll have Hasselhoff singing the national anthem. Who knows? That would be great if Hasselhoff could sing the national anthem. As our guest is actually waiting in the green room. If they could start the very first football game in Germany, the NFL game, with David Hasselhoff singing the national anthem, I think they would have us back 10 times a year if we wanted to go. As long as he was the man.
Their little minds.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring on our special guest. Now, look, if you're an on-air talent that comes on the show once, we appreciate you for the nice gesture and for helping us build our following. If you come on the show twice, that officially makes you a friend of the show and basically gives us permission to drunk text you at any point, day or night. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back now friend of the show, host of The Zone on Sports Radio 810 out of Kansas City, Mr. Jason Anderson. Jason, how you doing, bud?
I'm fine. Does the texting go both ways now?
So absolutely.
Yeah,
okay, just want to make sure. Yeah, if you get the text at 2 o'clock in the morning, understand it. You started it.
When was the last time? Have you ever actually drunk texted somebody?
I have actually never been drunk before. I've never drank alcohol before. I don't drink.
Oh, bless you.
It's good. That's great for your liver.
Yeah. I mean, I just honestly, I never started through high school. I know that's not but high school, college, friends just never did it. I don't know. I don't know why. No particular reason. Just haven't done it.
That's not a bad thing.
It's
Marty,
weird.
when was the last time you saw me take a drink? That's when I crushed you at darts, right?
Yes. he's drunk.
Right
and he
now?
goes, watch, I'm going to throw a bullseye. And he's maintaining eye contact with me and just throws it sideways. Bullseye.
Wow.
He called
I did that twice.
2 more in a row. And I was like, are you kidding me right now?
I can't.
But that was that was like a year ago when we first started living together.
Maybe even more. Yeah.
Wow.
No, the last time I did something stupid when I was drunk, I went on Facebook and sang "Sweet Caroline."
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. See, I don't have those excuses to say well, I mean, I just did that on my own, just randomly.
I love singing "Sweet Caroline," man.
Well, I really wasn't.
All right, now let's jump into it. So first, I want to thank the Chiefs again for destroying what I thought was a perfect 6-team parlay against the spread last week. All they had to do was cover 6.5.
Yeah.
Completely blew that for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to we're not going to make you revisit that. I know you probably already talked about this on your show of all the horrible, terrible mistakes that they've made. Let's go ahead and jump forward to this Sunday. The Chiefs actually trying to jump back. This game again will be in Frankfurt, Germany against the Miami Dolphins. This is a tough test for both teams. Miami Dolphins are like 13-33 against the majority with all of their wins that they've had. So the teams that they beat have a combined record of 13-33. They are yet to beat a team with a winning record. I honestly don't see it happening. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. If it was played in Arrowhead like it was originally scheduled, I'd like the Chiefs more than I really do now. But I do, I'll pick the Chiefs to win this one. But one thing that is an unknown is, how each team will fare with the time change, because Miami flew out on Monday and got an off day on Tuesday to sort of sightsee and things like that, and then practicing there today. And the Chiefs don't leave till tomorrow, so they'll get there tomorrow evening, and they'll go through all of their press conference stuff on Friday, which gives them Friday and Saturday to get ready for a late afternoon game that's 8:30 their time in the morning, while Miami has been there for almost a week. So it's kind of different ways of going about it. Baltimore went to England the week before, or the week of, like Monday, and Tennessee got there on Friday. Andy Reid, his foreign trips, his trips that he's taken overseas, he's gone on Thursday each time. And he's like, look, this works. This is what we do. So we're going to go on Thursday, whether it's London or Frankfurt. This is just how we're going to approach it. So that's an unknown. I mean, no idea if there's going to be anything, some jet lag or anything like that. So that's it's a part of this game that I don't know that can really be quantified, because what players acclimate better? Does it matter? Chase Daniel played in the NFL for like 15 years, and he's done both. And he said he actually preferred to go later in the week. So who knows? I mean, but it doesn't mean 53 players on a team prefer to go later in a week as opposed to earlier. So that's part of this game that I think is such an unknown that could play a factor in it one way or another. Could be positive for the Chiefs, could be positive for the Dolphins. I don't know.
I'm surprised you didn't try to get on the plane with them. Was there ever an opportunity for you to go?
Yeah, the security tried to sneak into Kelsey's luggage, but that was the dumb one because they checked his more than anybody else's. So
because Taylor's trying to go too. So,
I know. Yeah, I should have just picked some random player's luggage. No, I actually prefer not to go, just because if I go over there, I'd take the week off and go and enjoy being there, but not working all day, working on all different shows and doing the interviews and everything with the time change and then trying to schedule around that. So. I know it sounds sort of spoiled, as in well, no, I would turn down a trip. I wouldn't turn it down, but we're not sending anybody, so I didn't have to make that choice. But yeah, if they sent me, I would go and make the best of it. But I wasn't lobbying to go over there to try to work, just to hang out here, do my job, and then wake up and watch the game Sunday morning.
Have you ever been to Germany?
I have never been outside of the United States except for Mexico twice. That's it. So I've never been across either ocean.
Okay, Lady M, actually, she was over there as a military spouse. I was over there. I spent 3 days in Rhine-Main Army Air Base Hospital When I was serving in the 90s in Bosnia. I ended up getting hurt, and that's where I woke up. So that was my 3 days in Germany. Good experience. I couldn't handle the alcohol.
So I
It's
guess
a
I shouldn't
much
go.
higher percentage than American alcohol. The equivalent of like a pint of beer, which they give you like the big pint glasses, is something like a 6-pack. If you're just going to drink something over here, it was a popular way to haze new soldiers just getting to Germany, to not tell them that, to take them out drinking, so they would drink their normal amount of beer.
I just had 3 beers. No, you didn't.
Yeah. It's significantly more trash than they were used to.
The night before we flew back, I went down to the bar and I just ordered a beer. That's all I said. Can I get a beer? And they gave me like this big, tall thing, dark beer. And I'm like, all right. I took like 3 sips and I just pushed it aside and I ordered a light beer. The part where my manhood was tested was when this female airman came over. She's like, are you going to finish that? I'm like, no. And she just downed it like right in front of me. And I'm like, I got nothing. I got nothing for you.
Don't worry, the same thing would happen with me too. So, I mean, it's all good. My wife and I, when we go out to dinner, she's from Kentucky, so she loves, bourbon. She's a bourbon girl. So we'll go out to Kentucky and, or we'll go out to dinner and I'll order like a water and she'll order, an old fashioned. And if the person brings us the drink that did not take our order, it's like 80% of the time, bourbon in front of me, water in front of her. Like,
they just assume
that is wrong. Besides the sexism, but also she's the one that's drinking that. I'll take the water. Thank you very much.
So let's look at this game and let's break it down by the numbers here. The money line, obviously, the Chiefs are the favorite, -148. You said you're taking. I mean, you're not going to go against the Chiefs like I go against the Patriots, apparently. This should be a really good game. I don't know. The spread is 2.5, and any home team usually gets 2.5, 3 points on the spread if they think it's going to be really close, or if they think it could be an upset. So everybody's thinking like this could go either way. I mean, obviously you got the Tyreek Hill factor. Is this the first time he's played against you guys since he's been on the Dolphins?
It is, and that was one of the reasons why people were frustrated with the game being in Germany with Miami, because this was an anticipated game. It's like he's returning to Arrowhead, and the Chiefs knew they were getting Miami at home. We just didn't know the week or the time, and then we find out it's in Germany, and we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And as we found out, so the way it works is that a team can block a game from being taken overseas. But they can't choose different games. They can't say we want this game or that game. They typically don't take a divisional game, and there are other marquee games like we didn't think Philadelphia or Buffalo or Cincinnati was going to be sent overseas. But apparently the Chiefs blocked the Bears game this year because of dynamic pricing. So they figured a lot of Chicago Bears fans, they wanted to charge a little bit more money. And behind the scenes, they didn't want the fiasco of Tyreek returning. They just didn't want that whole thing. And they were like, you know what? If it's Miami, it's Miami. And pretty much everybody on the Chiefs schedule, if you say, hey, do you want to play the Chiefs in Germany? They're like, yeah, I'll volunteer to not go to Arrowhead. To one of our road game was going to be in Kansas City, and now it's in Germany. Yeah, we'll volunteer to play the Chiefs, not in Arrowhead. So it wasn't a matter of finding the opponent. It was just the Chiefs got their choice of one game to black out of a choice of like 4 or 5, whichever were the games that the NFL was like, these are the games. Clearly, Miami was one of them, and they chose the Bears to black out that one. So I don't think the Chiefs are upset that this game is in Germany. Chiefs fans are. They'd like to see it at Arrowhead. And I think Tyreek Hill is as well. I think Tyreek wanted to return to Arrowhead and play there in front of the fans.
Yeah, Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium is probably on both of our top probably 2 or 3 list of stadiums that we want to go to, specifically because of the noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Got loud, rowdy fans. I love it.
I have no doubt that this is going to be a sellout, but I don't think that they're going to bring the noise.
No. It's
I just think they're going to.
It's like a Super Bowl atmosphere, though, at these games. It's like there's just noise throughout the game. It's just like, there's both teams. And there's the sort of, there's the soccer culture of like, you just constantly cheer throughout the game. It's just, there's always noise. Like at a soccer game, it's never quiet. Even if a team's down, Sporting Kansas City went to St. Louis over the weekend and won the first game in the playoffs, and they were up 4-1. and the St. Louis fans are still chanting and cheering. And I'm just like, man, I would have left probably at that point. So it's sort of a constant sort of buzz that sort of happens throughout the game, but there's not going to be any of the loud crowd that's going to cause any false starts or delay of games that you would get at Arrowhead.
You know what they need to allow in overseas? Back in the World Cup when they had those, what were they?
The
trumpets?
vuvuzelas?
Yes. Yeah, they need to allow those at NFL games. I would love that. That would be a huge advantage for any home base to any home team to have that.
Yeah.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. I think I'll take the Chiefs -2.5 because they just haven't proven to beat a good team yet. I mean, they're 6-2, which is great, but all their wins are against subpar teams.
Well, and one of the things that we've been looking at is, this Chiefs defense is different. It's the best Chiefs defense that they've had since Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback. It's typically, the mantra around here is typically, can you get middle of the pack defensively? And then Patrick Mahomes and the offense can carry you. Well, that hasn't been the season. I mean, the offense has struggled and the defense has been really good. And it's especially good at putting pressure on the quarterback, and especially with the front four, that Spagnuolo likes to blitz a lot, but they haven't had to blitz the last couple of weeks. And against the Chargers and the Broncos, these last two games, they have a total of 11 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, and 16 quarterback hits. The Eagles and Bills are the two games that the Dolphins lost, and Tua was sacked 9 times in those games. He was been sacked twice. Every other game total, he's been sacked twice. 11 times he's been sacked, 9 times against the Bills and the Eagles. And that's a strength of the Chiefs this year, is getting after the quarterback. You throw off the timing. So I think one of the advantages of Miami is, that offensive side. I actually think the Chiefs have a little bit of an advantage defensively against a banged up offensive line. We'll see if Teron Armstead plays. He traveled to Germany with them. So if he's back, their starting left tackle, they opened up his 21-day window. That would help Isaiah Wynn, their starting left guards, on the IR. So if Teron Armstead doesn't play, they'd be missing their left tackle and left guard against, a defense that's been really good at putting pressure on the quarterback the last couple of weeks. And so that part of it, I think offense versus defense, Miami's versus the Chiefs defense, I think the Chiefs have an advantage of being able to pressure Tua. And I think the Chiefs offense, after last week's game against the Broncos, is pretty upset and mad about how they played. And the Dolphins defense has struggled a good portion of the season. So I do think both sides of the ball, the Chiefs have an advantage, but they also had an advantage on both sides of the ball against the Broncos. They scored 9 points.
Yeah, they did.
It's one of those to where, it's why they play the game, because you can't predict 5 turnovers. A guy catches the ball, turns around, a defender hits him at the exact right spot, and he fumbles the football. Those are things that, just happen in the NFL that, out of 17 games, there are going to be some times where the ball doesn't bounce your way. And this thing, Patrick Mahomes had the flu, but that doesn't make up for everybody else struggling. I mean, the entire team didn't have the flu. It was just Mahomes. Right. They were dropping passes, fumbling, and missing blocks. I mean, it was a real struggle against Denver. And I wonder if, maybe Miami was on their mind. I don't know. They'd beaten the Broncos 16 straight times. And they had just played what they – yeah, I know. Sorry. They had just played what they felt was maybe their best game of the season against the Chargers. And then you got Miami around the corner. I think maybe they sort of went into that game against Denver, and now we beat them 16 times. And, you take a team for granted that's kind of mad that they've lost 16 straight times against you, and they come out and play like that. And you turn the ball over 5 times, you're not winning, in the NFL.
I do think it's funny. So Mahomes had the flu. Because that's what I literally kept saying. I was like, there's no excuse for this. Somebody's sick. The flu's going around. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
somebody had food poisoning.
That's funny. The flu went around his house last week, and he came down with it on Saturday night. So like his kids and his wife had the flu, and he was like, I was trying to avoid it, and I was hoping that it wouldn't happen. And then Saturday night they were in Denver, and it just hit him. So he woke up.
Man, Chiefs gotta be like. Chief's going to be like, look, we will put you in a 5-star resort if your family is sick.
I know. Stay away from me, guys. Come on. But yeah, so he woke up and got fluids and everything and tried to do that. And I'm like,
he played.
He played okay, but he wasn't running as much. Like he would he would start to run a little bit. Then you'd see him sort of flatten out down the line of scrimmage and look to throw the ball a little. Like typically, like when he's outside, he's going to throw the ball, or he's going to be pretty committed to run and pick up the first down. And we didn't see that a whole lot from him. It just felt kind of lethargic. And instead of the team picking up a teammate and going, all right, he's not feeling well, let's play better. It almost felt like the team took on his I don't want to say personality, but his sort of aura and energy in the game, as opposed to, no, we're going to pick him up. They sort of just slunk with him, unfortunately.
Right. The over under in this game is 51. Which way are you leaning on that?
I'm leaning towards the under. Has been hitting so much this year that, anytime there's an over that's at 50, it just scares me. Because I mean, there's so much of the totals that are sitting at 41, 42, 43 aren't even hitting.
Right.
And the Chiefs offense hasn't been great. I mean, they've scored in the 30 points twice against the Chargers and the Bears. So I think they could score in the 30s against the Dolphins. The Dolphins' offense is really good, but against the Bills and the Eagles, they haven't, performed the way that they're not the 70-20 Dolphins, when they played against the Eagles and the Bills. So I'm leaning towards the under of being somewhere around 24-21. If it gets to 27-24, something like that, I could see that. But then it's sort of waiting for a field goal late. I don't know. I don't see like a 35-31 game or something like that people may think could happen in Germany, just because the Chiefs offense hasn't been consistent enough to do that, to put continual drives together. And the Chiefs defense has been really good, that they've been holding opponents. The most points scored against them this year was 24 this last weekend against Denver.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. And the issue with that is, if you're the Chiefs defense, you got to be pissed, because those 4 scoring drives that they got 24 points were a total of 104 yards. They picked up 26 yards per drive to score 24 points.
Yeah, because the turnovers were on their side of the field. So
they started at the 31, the 50, the 10. Those were their touchdown drives.
That's got to crush. Yeah, that's got to crush the morale, a little bit on defense when you play that well. But nobody looks at the stat box. They just look at the final score and they're like, "Oh, the defense was terrible."
Yeah, they were. I mean, this year they were the only defense that hadn't given up defensively more than 17 points. They gave up 21 to the Lions, but there was a pick 6. So they only gave up 14 to the Lions, and they gave up 17 to the Chargers. So they were the only team going into Denver that hadn't given up 20 points this year in the game, and they gave up 24 to the Broncos. So the defense has been holding their own. It's the first time I can remember saying the offense was so bad that the defense couldn't make up for it. Usually it's been the flip side with Mahomes, that, look, the defense was so bad that even Mahomes couldn't save them that game. And that just wasn't the case in Denver.
Right. Player props aren't out yet, because we're recording this on Wednesday, so we'll probably get the player props for Sunday's games coming out probably Thursday evening, Friday morning. The only one that I can think of that I'm interested in right now is an anytime touchdown scorer, and that's Rashee Rice. I love how he has just basically come on from out of nowhere. That prop, by the way, is at plus 235. So I like that bet. I'll probably put like $20-$30 down on that bet, but I like that at plus 235.
Yeah, I like the Rashee Rice. I've been playing, Pacheco anytime touchdowns, unfortunately, the last few weeks. But it was hitting. Like, he had 4 games in a row where he scored a touchdown. And then against the Broncos 2 weeks ago, they went 1 of 5 in the red zone. And it was like, all right, that happens, but they were going to get him the ball. That's, that they're not a team that goes 20% in the red zone. And then against the Chargers, he didn't score. And then this last week, they went 0 of 3 in the red zone. So when they get there inside the 5-yard line, he's been scoring. So the Pacheco touchdown I like, but Rashee Rice, he's close to a huge breakout game, like a 100-yard game. He's had a couple of games where he's got to 70. And Vegas keeps putting his line at like 42 or 43 yards. And I just keep playing the over every week with Rashee Rice. Eventually it'll adjust, because it's Kelsey and Rashee Rice right now. That's who Mahomes is throwing to. So when you look at the box score, you're seeing like Kelsey 12 targets, Rashee Rice is the next in line with like 7. And then, a running back with like 4 or 5 or something like that. It's Kelsey and Rice. And I think Rashee Rice is becoming a consistent wide receiver that can get 50, 60 yards a game. And Vegas keeps it at around 40 each week. So that's one that I play every single week, is Rashee Rice over, until they start to adjust more to what he's actually doing week in and week out.
Yeah, I'm starting to find more and more players like that. Like one of my favorites to play that I've hit the last couple of weeks is Dalton Kincaid. They've had him right around between 30 and 40 yards, and he has 60, 70, 80 yards and a touchdown in the game. Yep. So I love playing him as well, even though, I I got to cheer for a Buffalo Bill, but that's
rough.
okay.
You're cheering
Jason,
for your wallet.
I know your time
There
is,
you
is
go.
short, but do you want to go over a few games here? I got 5 games I want your opinions on here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the first game, it's not really a big game, but it is a Thursday night game. It's the 3-4 Titans, 4-3 Steelers. Will Levis, I mean, I loved what I saw from him last week, and I really don't think that's just going to be, oh, he just came out and he had a great show on one week and then did nothing against the Steelers. I think he can actually light up this Steelers defense, who's really not that good at guarding receivers. What are your thoughts?
This is going to be a game where I am really fascinated to see what Will Levis does, just because he wasn't the most consistent guy week in and week out in college. He's got a huge arm, and we saw that this last weekend. And he's got somebody to throw to in DeAndre Hopkins, which is good. And it's one of the things that I wondered if the Titans would trade Hopkins to get something out of him, since they traded Kevin Byard. But then it's like, okay, you got Hopkins for a year and a half still. Do you want to see what Will Levis can be with DeAndre Hopkins, or you don't want to take his best receiver away from him and then say, go develop, kid, go figure it out. So he's got DeAndre Hopkins to throw to, and he's been doing that. He's got a huge arm, and so he's not afraid to throw it deep and to take chances. This is one to where if he comes out and he shows it again against the Steelers, then I'll believe a little bit more. I'm in more of a wait and see approach, because I watched a lot of Will Levis in college, because living in Kentucky for 10 years and family members that are UK fans, and me being a Missouri fan that roots against UK. And so that sort of rivalry that's there.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Will Levis, and he has games where he just looks like, wow, how is he not the number 1 pick? And then he'll have games where it's like, how is he going to be drafted? And I think that's that's why opinions were so split on him. Like, who's ESPN, Mel Kiper had him as like his number 1 quarterback, but he went in the second round. Other people had him as like their 5th or 6th quarterback. You couldn't find a consensus on him. And it was one of those to where if a team drafted him early, they were either going to get, extension and a lot of money, or they were going to get fired because it's one of those guys. Drafting him in the second round, if he doesn't hit, well, it's not a fireable offense. But if he does hit, well, now you've got a guy you took in the second round that can play quarterback at a high level. So if he can find consistency to his game, he's got the tools. He can throw it all over. He can make all the throws, but can he do it while also having everything between the ears to be able to do that week in and week out in the NFL? But he's clearly talented. But the Steelers are at home, so I think I'll lean Steelers there with them playing at home. And I don't know, man. I'm not trusting the Titans, but I always hate going against Mike Vrabel, because he's just such a good coach, just the future Patriots coach. I just hate going up against him.
Yeah, hey, possibly they just put him in the Pats Hall of Fame. So I
figured while he was there,
love it if he came back.
Hey, Rob, while he's here, I mean, you want to see if Bill would maybe, I don't know, take some time off, go to a beach, see what Mike Vrabel can do.
I'm actually going to break down this game a little bit more in the third quarter for the DraftKings DFS, but I got 3 stats of why I'm leaning heavy towards Tennessee. The Steelers allowed 263 passing yards per game. That's bottom 3rd in the league. They allow 115 rushing yards per game. That's 29th in the league. And they allow 195.3 yards just to wide receivers, ranked 29th in the league. So I've got my parlays are all Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins in that game. And I'll go over those in depth a little again during the third quarter. But I mean, I don't think it's just going to be a 1 week fling and, he comes back down to earth just because he's playing the Steelers.
Yeah.
So I like Levis in that one.
Yeah. I mean, it may be because it's a Thursday game that, I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, the Steelers, I mean, they're still alive in the North at 4-3, and I didn't think they would be at this point.
Yeah.
And the Titans are only a game out of the wild card right now. So it's not like their season is toast. Yep. If they think they've got some with Will Levis and, obviously Derrick Henry's still the face of that offense, and DeAndre Hopkins, if he can make some plays, yeah, they can make some noise, because while the top of the AFC is stacked, I mean, there are a number of teams that are beatable. That 7th seed, whoever gets in there last, is going to be a team right around like the Titans or Steelers or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kenny Pickett with a rib injury. He says he's playing. Tomlin says he's going to be a game time decision. I think that's just to kind of blanket it and, tell people to shut up about it until the game starts. But I'm pretty sure they think that Kenny Pickett is going to be good to go. on that game. Another game I got the 5-2 Seahawks at the 6-2 Ravens. I love there's two stud rookie wide receivers. You got Jackson Smith and Jiggle, who's actually a friend of the show, him and his brother. And then you got Zay Flowers out of Boston College. That was
BC.
Right there. Yeah. So I love the fact when Zay Flowers got drafted, I was actually going back and forth with a huge Alabama fan. And they're like, Alabama receivers are great. And I'm like, well, Boston College receiver just got picked. And they're like, what? Who? And I'm like, do you not know who Zay Flowers is?
Yeah,
Come on,
Zay Flowers
man.
is who I wanted the Chiefs to trade up and get.
Oh, he would have been perfect.
They tried to trade up to get a wide receiver. We haven't been told which one. But the Chiefs were, when the wide receiver run started, so it was after JSN was drafted, the Chiefs tried to move up. So I don't know if that was for Addison, if it was for Zay Flowers, but I don't think it was for Quentin Johnston with the Chargers. But the team they were talking to didn't want to move down. Neither of those teams wanted to move down. Minnesota was fine where they were. Baltimore was fine where they were, and the Chargers weren't going to move down and trade with the Chiefs for a wide receiver. So I was really, really hoping they would move up and get Zay Flowers, because Zay Flowers in this offense would just be dynamite.
Do you think the Seahawks hold on to the NFC West? You think they finish at the top, or do you think the Niners come back and take it?
I think there's some issues in San Francisco right now. I mean, I know there's some injuries and things like that with Trent Williams and Debo, and getting those guys back, it makes a difference. But I can't imagine Brock Purdy is just a good quarterback if Debo and Trent Williams play, and he's a bad quarterback if Debo and Trent Williams don't play. I think there's an element to, we see Jimmy Garoppolo in Vegas, what he's doing, and now not even starting, and Josh McDaniels being fired. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy show you how good of a coach Kyle Shanahan is, that he can get the best out of some quarterbacks, but he's also getting the best out of quarterbacks that are limited. And I think Brock Purdy is a limited quarterback. And until, they find some, and that's why they moved up and traded all those picks for Trey Lance. They just chose wrong. They chose poorly on who they were going to get. But I mean, Kyle Shanahan, as the coach of the 49ers, when his team is trailed by 8 points or more in the fourth quarter, he's 0-36. They have not come back from a game in which they've trailed by 8 points or more in the fourth quarter.
Just 8 points.
Just 8 points. It's one possession. 0-36. 0-36 in that time. And I think that's the quarterback issue. I think when you're down in a game in the fourth quarter, who's the quarterback? Can they make the plays? Can they rally the team? Does the team believe in them? And I think Shanahan does a great job of getting quarterbacks to play at a really high level of their ability. But I don't know. I think there might be some bloom coming off the rose of Brock Purdy right now. I'm not saying that it's midnight and there's a pumpkin or anything, but
could be.
I'm just glad we're not saying, is he the next Joe Montana anymore?
I will say this, though.
Calm down.
They struggled without Debo. So I think once they get Debo back, then that offense will run better. Also, I do love the fact, trade deadline, they went out and got Chase Young. So now you got Chase Young and you got Bosa on the opposite side coming at you. That's huge. Yeah,
back-to-back years, they've gone out and made a huge trade. McCaffrey last year, Chase Young this year. And, Chase Young's having a great year this year. He's having a year that people were thinking Chase Young would have when he got drafted early by the Commanders. But Commanders clearly weren't going to pay him. So, it's a big move by San Francisco. But Seattle has shown, like, what Seattle did last year, I think goes a long way for whether or not they can hold on this year, because there's a belief that it's not just, oh, hey, we're doing this. Do we belong? Is this real? Because they did it last year. And so this year is sort of a validation of, no, this is who we are. This is how good we are. We can be here. We can do the things. We can, play our style of football, and we can win the West. But obviously it's San Francisco or Seattle. And this is a big one for Seattle if they can find a way to win this one.
Oh, absolutely. Especially on the road.
Yeah.
This game, I love this game. Cowboys 5-2 at the Eagles 7-1.
Yeah.
Can the Cowboys pull off the win going into Philly?
I think they can. Yeah. The Cowboys have shown that they've, they can win some big games. It's just Philly feels like that team that's just going to continually land body blows. And there's kind of a feel to the team that at times this year they've been just playing with their food, because they got to the Super Bowl.
It's great.
They got to the Super Bowl. They could have very easily won the Super Bowl. And then you got to start all over. And so I know with the Chiefs, when they went to the Super Bowl in 2019, they won it. The next year, they end up going 14-1. In the last game of the season, they rested their starters and lost, so they were 14-2. So when they tried to win, they were 14-1. But they had so many close games. Like they were in these battles, and it was one of the lines that Patrick Mahomes that year said. He was like, he said, people are out talking about that we're not winning by enough, so I guess that's a stat. So they were annoyed that the conversation was, why aren't they winning by more? They're Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
And now I look back and it's like, Mark Schlereth at the Super Bowl was like, yeah, the repeating in Denver, we got bored. We got complacent because we were thinking about playoffs. We got to get back to the playoffs. And like you're fighting for January. But before you had that opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, it was about the grind throughout the regular season to get there. Once you're there, it almost becomes your mind is just about January and playing. And I think there's an element of the Eagles this year that are in that sort of mode of our season starts in January. We're all about then. Let's get through these games so we can get to the games that matter to us. And that leaves you susceptible to some games, especially if you're going up against a Dallas team that's trying to be where Philadelphia is. So I definitely think Dallas can go there and win. I'm not sure they will, because even with the Eagles playing with their food at times, they're still incredibly talented.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You said something there that maybe they're just getting bored. As a Patriots fan, maybe Belichick's just getting bored. The problem is he keeps the same tone year after year. You can't tell if he's bored or excited or what's going on.
Well, I think wasn't there an element of that with the Patriots over the years? That how many years in a row did we go, the dynasty's over? Look, they lost this game. They lost this game in the regular season. They got beat by this team. How do you lose? They're losing that game. The dynasty's over. And then they would just go and win in January. They would just go. So I wonder if there's an element of like, they're not robots. You're not going to get a championship level 17 weeks out of the season from, these games. And every once in a while, you're going to go through a week that you're just like, I don't really feel it. Not really feeling it this week. And you end up losing. But come the postseason, the champions find ways to win in the end. And that's what Brady and the Patriots did all the time. Like it was every year like, well, the dynasty's over, guys. It's definitely over now. Okay, yes, we were wrong last year, but it's definitely over now.
The cliff.
Okay, yes, we've been wrong the last 2 years.
The cliff. I love that. Max Kellerman. I don't even know where he's at now, but like he fell off the cliff before Brady did.
Yeah.
Last game, you got the 5-3 Bills at the 4-3 Bengals.
Oh yeah.
This is an emotional game.
No doubt.
This is an emotional game.
Yeah.
You got Boyd.
Yeah.
You've got, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game before you even start talking about the wins and losses. You got Hamlin's story. Hamlin and Boyd are basically like brothers. They've grown up like since they were in Little League. They've known each other. And now Boyd's like 2-3 years older than Hamlin, and he went to Pitt and he played at Pitt before Hamlin did, but they've basically been on the same path together. And when this happened, when the incident happened, like Boyd was trying to push his way to Hamlin, trying to find out what was going on with him. Like the coaching staff didn't know about the relationship, the coaching staff from the Bengals. So they were trying to tell him, give him some room, give him some room, give him some room.
Right.
He's like, no, that's my boy right there.
Yeah. It's that backdrop is one of the bigger storylines. And, it was unfortunate that, Hamlin didn't play week 1 because with that, game of, Buffalo and New York, the last Monday Night Football game last year was the Bengals-Bills. The first Monday Night Football game this year was Bills and Jets. So it was going to be DeMar Hamlin was going to make his return on the first Monday night game since that happened. But no, this one is going to be even more emotional for him with returning there. And there's so much to this game that before you even get to what happens on the field, just because everybody was watching that game last year. It was just an incredible moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the game if we can. The Bills are 5-3, Bengals are 4-3, but the Bengals have reeled off 3 straight. I picked the Bengals as my team this year. They're winning it all. I actually picked them to beat the Niners, which they did last week. So
nailed it.
I don't well, let's see if it's that matchup in the big game. The Niners got some work to do, but I do have the Bengals. with them struggling at the beginning of the season, I was like, this is just like the Chiefs last week. That's not the Kansas City Chiefs that we expect. The first few weeks of the season, those were not the Cincinnati Bengals that we expect. Now we're seeing them, and now they're putting up points and they're beating teams like it's no big deal.
Yeah, I think the Bengals the first couple of weeks, I think there was a lot of the Joe Burrow injury with that calf injury. He didn't look right. He wasn't moving. They weren't throwing the ball deep. I mean, he couldn't. We saw against the 49ers him moving around in the pocket, breaking tackles there. That's what he does well. I mean, his ability to manipulate inside the pocket and find angles. When he's not doing that, I mean, the offense, isn't the same. When he's got to just stand there and I feel the rush, so I've got to throw the football or go down because my calf injury. Yeah, they're not going to be nearly the same. And now that he looks healthy, there's almost like an added motivation of sort of on a mission that, no, that's not who we were. And unfortunately for the Bills, I think the Bengals win this game. Unfortunately for the Bills, their defense is just completely different with the last few weeks. And when you lose Tre'Davious White and you lose Matt Milano, like all the advanced metrics show that, the first 4 or 5 weeks before Milano and Tre'Davious White went down, the Bills were a top 5 defense. Since then, they're ranked in the mid-20s in DVOA and EPA because they can't play man-to-man anymore. Like they don't have those guys to be able to do that. So teams know, like we know we're going up against a team that doesn't have the personnel and the ability to really man up. So you're just going to have to go zone. And if you're going to just sit there and zone against the Bengals and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, well, good luck to you. I think that's the unfortunate part about the Bills this year is I think the Bills had a good enough team to win the Super Bowl, but Milano and Tre'Davious White could be, a bridge too far to sort of overcome with how they've been playing defensively since then.
Well, the Bills have had a good enough team on paper to win the big game for the last 4 or 5 years.
They have, yeah.
And they just it's a Buffalo thing, they break like the tables and in the parking lot pregame. I mean, that's
right. Yeah.
Patriots have only won 2 games, but hell, we beat the Bills and we beat the Jets. So there you go.
Right. There you go.
And the Jets, the Bills, what is it, 14 or 15 straight against the Jets? We'll take that. If we can sweep them, okay, we'll take that.
I mean, the Bills, and they played in the AFC Championship game in 2020 against the Chiefs. They played in that amazing divisional game in 2021 with the Chiefs. That was the 13-second game, which is what we call it around here. When there was 13 seconds left, Chiefs down by a field goal, got the ball. And then last year, that game against Cincinnati, where whatever happened between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and the drama that developed there in the snow, I mean, that was a good enough team too. Like, I wonder the Bills, like if their defense was not injured, because I know the Chiefs all last year were talking about Cincinnati because they lost in the AFC Championship game to the Bengals. So that's all they were talking about. And the Bengals talking and the trash talk for the Bengals and everything. And they wanted to get back at Cincinnati so bad. And then they got another chance and they won. And they spent the whole post game throwing back in the face of the Bengals everything that they were saying about them. So it was cathartic for them to really get that off their chest. And Buffalo was pretty pissed after the Bengals loss of the Bengals talking and, things in the locker room after the game was over. I just don't think they have the manpower to be able to go there and win. They can be motivated all they want. The Chiefs were playing in the AFC Championship game. Like, they were there, good enough, on the same level, extra motivation. The Burrowhead was dumb, by the Bengals last year. But the Bills felt like, outside of that game, it was they felt disrespected. In fact, there were a lot of Bills fans that were like, I never thought I'd say this, but go Chiefs. Really want them to beat the Bengals this week. Yeah. And like 2 weeks before, it was like, it doesn't matter if it's Bills or Bengals, just as long as it's not the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then Cincinnati goes in there and treats you like a little brother and tells you you are the little brother. Well, then you get a little annoyed and a little mad. But I don't know that Buffalo has the horses on defense to slow down the Bengals. Like, this is going to have to be a Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, Kincaid.
Oh, it's going to be a shootout.
Davis. They have to score in the 30s if the Bills have a chance, because I think the Bengals are already there.
Absolutely. Jason, do you know the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Well, if we can manage to fool you a third time and get you back on the show again after today, man, we're gonna need to shower you with some gifts. We're gonna have to send you some free gear, something, because third time's the charm, and so we'll definitely look you up if we can get you back on. But we appreciate you, man. I love talking football with you. Jason Anderson, the host of The Zone on 810 Sports Radio out of Kansas City. Dude, we love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime, guys. I really appreciate it. Reach out. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. What do we have next? That was awesome.
That was awesome. Next is second quarter, week 9 schedule and locks.
All right, so let's go through the schedule real quick. We're going to do the schedule and the locks in the same quarter. Thursday night football, we talked about it a little bit. 3-4 Titans at 4-3 Steelers. I mean, I think Will Levis will have a field day on this as long as I don't think last weekend was a fluke because he was throwing the ball so effortlessly and he showed a huge partnership with DeAndre Hopkins in his first start. Like usually it takes a minute to get in good with your number one wide receiver. I mean, the guy scored a couple touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, leave us through for four passing touchdowns in his first game. You're going up against a defense in Pittsburgh that is not that good. They're just not. They're terrible at covering wide receivers. If they have any shot at all, they're going to have to win it in the running game. That's the only way I see that happening. Moving on to that game, by the way, 5:15 tomorrow night, Sunday. We got to change our clocks. Oh, no, wait. No, we don't. Because we just, we're the only smart ones in the country.
We live in a state that's sane.
So 7:30 a.m. I'll be up. I'll tell you about the game. It's 6-2 Dolphins at the 6-2 Chiefs. Just as we just got done talking about, this game is in Frankfurt, Germany. All 6 wins for the Dolphins have come against teams with a combined record of 13 wins and 33 losses. Like, show me that you can beat a good team. Show me that you can actually beat it. I don't care how many points you put up. I don't care how many receiving yards Tyreek Hill ends up with at the end of the year. You got an easy schedule. 13-33 says that your competition is not that tough, and you've only played 2 teams with a 500 or better record, and you lost them both convincingly. So now you're going up against another good team, 6-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs coming off a loss. Miami, I don't care that you're coming off a win because you beat who? Who'd you beat last week? Wasn't it the Patriots? Yeah. I don't care. I don't care. The Patriots have 2 wins. Go brag about that. You beat a 2-win team. Go brag about it. 13-33 says you can't beat a good team. You just can't. Moving on. 11 a.m. slate. You got the 4-4 Vikings at the 4-4 Falcons. So the Vikings are going to be starting rookie quarterback Jaren Hall from BYU for at least a week. They went out and traded for Arizona Cardinals quarterback Joshua Dobbs. Dobbs is really smart. He picks up an offense very fast. He's not going to be able to pick up the offense this quick. So Hall will be starting for the Vikings for at least 1 week. And again, the Falcons are starting Heineke. They benched Ritter. I'll take Heineke over Hall just because I don't know what the hell Hall's going to look like.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see. Speaking of the Cardinals, the 1-7 Cardinals at the 4-3 Browns. The Cardinals will start rookie quarterback. Raise your hand if you've heard of this guy, Clayton Tune. Are you in tune on this one? No,
I am not. I don't know.
He's actually a quarterback. He's out of Houston. They drafted him in the 5th round.
Probably why I don't know who he is then.
They drafted him in the 5th round. I want to say what's up to Julie Howard. She's watching. Absolutely. Devontae Adams, Butterfingers. Look, it's not Devontae Adams' fault if he doesn't have a quarterback that can throw to him. I'll say that. Moving on. What's the next game we're looking at? 3-5 Rams at the 2-5 Packers. Stafford, did you see him with the brace on his middle finger?
Yeah. He played a lot different. Like, I feel like it affected a lot.
He's the one with the sprained thumb on his throwing hand. He's got the sprained thumb. That's right. On his throwing hand. He's day to day with the sprained thumb. He's going against the 2-5 Packers. And I already said I've got no love for love. I don't care who they're playing. I'm not taking Jordan Love in anything. If you don't want to take the Rams in this one, I'll take the Rams in this one just because I am out of love with Love. I have zero trust in Jordan Love. I said it last week. Joe disagreed with me because she wanted to go against Vikings. She lost that bet. I guarantee it because she didn't want to listen to me. But that's okay. She gets more right than I do. Hands down, way more right than I do. I listen to her more than she listens to me. Trust me on that one. Talking about Joe Madden from Sports Grid. You can follow her at Joe Madden Sports on Twitter. Excuse me, X. Are you on X? I stayed home. I was on X all day. It was awesome. What? All right, moving on. 3 and 5 Commanders at our 2 and 6. I'm still a New England Patriots fan.
I would like to see this be a win.
It could be.
It could be.
Ahead.
We might have a shot this time.
The Commanders were sellers. They went out and they traded their best 2 defensive linemen. They traded Sweat to the Bears, who were apparently buyers. Actually, that trade makes a ton of sense, and I'll tell you why in a second. They traded Sweat to the Bears, and they traded Young to the Niners, which also makes great sense for the Niners, but it's good for the Patriots because that's their pass rush.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we can actually do something this week. But you know what? I am not locking. I'm cheering for him. All right, family that's listening, I'm cheering for the Patriots. Don't expect them to win. I'm just saying. I'm pulling for him. I'm cheering for him. I got 2 Mac Jones jerseys behind me. Come on, give me a break. Just because I pick against them. No. All right. So cheering for them. Don't really like. Right now, I'm cheering because they're going to have a freaking awesome draft pick, and they've got almost $100 million to spend in free agency. Patriot fans out there, if you want something positive to look at, every time they lose, their draft pick gets better. And they've got a ton of cash to spend next year. This year's team is not going to look like next year's team and vice versa. All right? Bill Belichick knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. I don't know what the hell it is, but he's got a plan. Moving on. The 2 and 6 Bears at the 4 and 4 Saints. So this is why the Bears were buyers. Usually you have teams that have a losing record that don't do anything because they're losing. Usually they only sell their good players. They went out and bought Sweat, which is a great move because if they waited until free agency, they're going to have to give up a hell of a lot more than what they gave up to try and get him to sign with the Bears. So since they traded for him, they can now negotiate and re-sign with nobody else trying to get his business.
Yeah.
So they'll have him for the rest of the season, which is good. See what you got, and then pay him what you feel he deserves, probably before the end of the season. They could probably extend him before the end of the season. I think that'd be a very smart move. With all of that being said, they're in New Orleans. Saints are a 4 and 4 team. I think this will be a back and forth game, but I do like the Saints defense against the Bears offense. I will say that. The 5 and 2 Seahawks. We talked about this game with Jason at the Ravens. This is a good game. This is a very good game. Here's the thing about the Ravens that I've noticed is once they figure out that they've won the game, doesn't matter if they realize that early in the third quarter or at the end of the third quarter or early in the fourth, they basically just lay down and let them get enough points to make it look competitive, but they still win the game, right? So I got to see what the spread is in this. If the spread's close, I think the Seahawks might be able to cover the spread, but I don't know if they can pull the win. So I want to see how many points the Seahawks are getting for this bet, which, by the way, for the Sunday games, I will post all of my best bets and my DraftKings team builds on Saturday because I wanted to get a little bit closer. I want to see where the line is at. I want to see what the people are betting. So I'll bet that on Saturday. I will post the Thursday night stuff, which we'll go over here in a little bit tomorrow. I've got a great, if you're looking at playing DFS tomorrow night, I have got a really good team build structured around a Tennessee stack going into that game, because I truly believe that Tennessee's going to do pretty damn good. I'll talk about that a little bit later on here, I think next quarter. All right, next game, we got the 3-4 Buccaneers at the 3-4 Texans. This game gives me about as much excitement as thinking about putting my wiener in a meat grinder. I really don't want to watch it, and I don't know anybody else that wants to watch that. So I don't really care who wins in that game. Like, that can go either way. I do like the fact that the Texans, with their rookie quarterback, they're competitive. They're 3-4. They're one game away from being a 400 team. I think the Buccaneers actually need this game more, because I think that the standards for them were a lot higher, especially in a weak division. But I mean, if I had to pick a winner, I'd say Buccaneers, but I like the fight in the Texans. I do. 205 slate. I don't know how much I like the fact that the games are now an hour later for us. I like the 10 a.m. start. The 11 is more like, hey, did we order our pizza yet? 10 a.m. you can still have breakfast or brunch with football, but right around 11, that's when you got to start ordering. You got to order the wings. You got to start. As a matter of fact, Sunday, can we do that? Can we do pizza and wings on Sunday?
Yeah, maybe.
Can we do that? All right, let's do that. What's your go-to pizza, by the way?
Mine?
Yeah,
well,
what's your go-to?
I have to eat all weird now because my body rolled out everything. But like back in the day, it would have been just like extra cheese and pepperoni.
Oh, you're so easy to please.
Maybe like bacon.
Tells everybody they need to know about why you're with me. You're so easy to please. It's like all I got to do is just smile and give you a kiss, and you're awesome for the rest of the day. I love it. Awesome. Seriously, she's not needy at all. I love it. All right, 2-6 Giants at the 3-5 Raiders. Again, Antonio Pierce, new interim head coach for the Raiders, because they fired everybody. They didn't trade for anybody. They didn't try to improve the team. They're just like, this is the team we're stuck with. We're just going to make some moves, bring some people up from practice squad.
I really feel like without the firing, they probably could have won the game, though. Now it feels all up in the air that anything could happen since it's all.
I mean, if you're going to fire him. Let me say this about Josh McDaniels. He's not that good of a head coach, but he's still one hell of an offensive coordinator. We might see him back in New England in a year or two. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because anytime the Patriots have had success over the last 20-something years, the majority of the time, we did some stuff with Bill O'Brien, but the majority of our success when we went to the big games in the playoffs, that was under offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
Last time we went to the playoffs, Josh McDaniels took a rookie quarterback, this guy right here, to the playoffs. I think Belichick had a little bit of something to do with that, but it was McDaniels' offense. So the 205 slate, 3-5 Colts at the 1-6 Panthers. Again, I'm not very excited about this game. The Panthers are not going to go winless. That's really the only reason why I was watching the Panthers, to see if they would go 0-17. Joe called that game. Joe Madden called that game. She said that would be the only chance that they would have to win. So I'm going to piggyback off that, and I'm going to say the Colts are going to win that game. Any thoughts on that?
If there was a chance for the Panthers to have a second win this season, this could potentially be it. Just depends on how much they're riding the high of the win from last week. If they're overall super demoralized, that win's not going to help. But if they're acting like that win is the big game that they just took or something, they might be riding enough of a high to at least give the Colts a run for their money.
I love how like I break down like stats and everything. You're all about the players' feelings.
Yep.
How are they feeling?
I don't hold stats or numbers or any of that crap in my head. So I couldn't call them that if I wanted to.
It kills me, but it brings a unique perspective to the game. So
it matters a lot more than people want it to.
Well, yeah, your mindset, your motivation, whether or not you're in or not, the team morale, that has a lot to do with whether or not you're going to play for a bad coach or whatnot. I still think
that's the Cowboys' problem. If they see a team as a threat, then they're going to come out with like swinging, so to speak. If they don't see a team as a threat, they just kind of half-ass it, and that ends up why they lose stupid games they shouldn't be losing.
So that's a great
Mentality.
segue because this is the next game on the schedule. The 5-2 Cowboys at the 7-1 Eagles. Are you picking the Cowboys?
I still think the Eagles are going to win, but this is exactly the kind of game where the Cowboys can take you by surprise.
Yeah, all right, I'll go with that. I'm not picking them, but I'll go with that. It's all about their feelings.
It matters.
Really? Tell me
matters.
about your feelings. Get the hell away from me. All right, moving on. Sunday Night Football, 6:20 p.m. The 5-3 Bills at the 4-3 Bengals. What you got? What are you thinking on that one? This is an emotion. This one, I'll go with the feelings one on this one.
Yeah.
Right? You got DeMar Hamlin going back to the spot where he died.
Yeah,
basically.
literally.
I mean,
I don't know. Both teams are going to be full of charge. That was both teams were on that field protecting him, like shielding from view, so people couldn't take inappropriate videos and whatnot during that. Talk about a way to bring a group together. Like, I think they have a genuine kinship now between the two. But I think that also means that they'll play a much harder, much different game than we're used to seeing.
All right, so you've got the feeling side.
Yeah.
But then you've got a team in the Bills who have been struggling. They lost to the Patriots 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We just heard Jason talk about how, they're having a hard time covering in the secondary. You're going up against pretty much the best trio of wide receivers next to maybe Seattle.
And the Bengals are on fire right now.
The Bengals won 3 in a row. I mean, like, if you're watching this live, go ahead and put in the comments. Are you more towards the feelings and you're taking Buffalo, or are you more towards the fact that Cincinnati's won 3 straight and they're just rolling right now? Which way are you leaning, Bengals or Bills? Let us know in the comments. Definitely want to kind of figure that out. I'll let you know during our locks. The Monday Night Football game, 3-4 Chargers at the 4-3 Jets. The Jets have actually won 3 games in a row after starting out 1-3. This is going to be interesting. The Chargers need a win.
I don't have this game listed on my notes somehow, so I wasn't prepared to talk
about
actually each other.
It's underneath the locks. I divided it up by mistake.
Oh, you snuck it down there. I see it. All right.
That's on me. It's a sneaky.
My brain went, Sunday. That's
game.
The last game ever.
Yeah.
Forget about Monday Night Football. What does that even mean?
So Monday Night Football, kind of which way you thinking on this? You got a good defense going up against an improving offense. And like the Chargers defense is not as good as it should be. Their pass rush is really good, but the rest of their defense is terrible. If they can't get to the quarterback, they're in trouble.
Yeah. And the more that Aaron Rodgers has been taken to the sidelines and doing the actual coaching, they've seen him there with a headset all the last game.
Well, yeah, he's not doing the coaching, but he is talking.
He's actively participating in every game.
It's
made a difference in their playing.
He is actively participating.
But it's made a difference in their play, I feel like. They don't look like the same team at all that started the season or that was on Hard Knocks or any of that. I don't know. I think the Jets can take it.
It's going to be interesting. We'll see. Yeah. All right, let's get into our locks then. Let's get into our locks. Thursday Night Football. Tomorrow night, we've talked about this game a ton. You got the 3-4 Titans at the 4-3 Steelers. You get first pick. Oh, by the way, I just want to remind everybody that I went a perfect 6-0 last week. Just throwing that out there. So, Lady M.
I still need to post it on X, but he did. I'm going to go wild on this one, and I'm going to take the Steelers since I already have an idea which way you're going.
So you're trying to catch up, is what you're saying. You're trying to catch up. I'm going with the Titans on this one. I think that the matchup is really good. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have 1 to 2 touchdowns. I think, obviously Will Levis is going to have at least 2 touchdowns, which is part of my props. So I like that route. I'm taking the Titans. All All right,
Okay.
Sunday Night Football. We do the primetime games first before we pick our individuals during the Sunday schedule. Sunday Night Football, 5-3 Bills and their feelings going into the 4-3 Bengals, who are rolling right now. Who you got?
I will go ahead and take the Bills.
Really?
Yeah, might as well.
Because you're all about the feelings. All right.
I know you're going Bengals too, so
I'm going Bengals. I'm going Bengals on this one. One team's like 1 and 2 in their last 3, I think. The other team's 3-0 in their last 3. The Bengals are rolling. That offense looks good.
Yeah.
The Bills are having trouble covering people. Stephon Diggs is not showing up like he needs to, which is why he's yelling at Josh Allen again. I mean, yeah, I'll take the Bengals. Monday Night Football, 3-4 Chargers at the Jets. Jets. No longer suck. Not yet. Let's let them finish the season.
But I am going to take the Jets in this game.
You're going to take the Jets in this game.
I legitimately think they can do it.
I want to cheer against the Jets, so I am going with the Chargers on this one. So we went different on all 3 primetime games. When was the last time that happened?
I don't know that that's ever happened, honestly.
No, I don't think so.
Season.
I don't think so. Well, that means that we're going to have 6 totally different picks this week because our next 3, once they're off the board, they're off the board. You can't pick them. So who's your first pick on the Sunday slate?
Straight just cherry pick, and I'm going to take the Eagles.
Is that really cherry picking, though? Am I going to?
Not really. I guess you're right.
Am I coming on the show and be like, you said this was the type of game that Cowboys could win?
I did.
You said it.
And it is. But I'm
and then you picked
the
Eagles. All right. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. So I will go with this schedule is really not
awful. Yeah.
That good. This schedule is really not that good. So am I going to have to cherry pick? I'm not going to cherry pick, but I'll tell you, I said it when we went over the game real quick that the Buccaneers need this win more than the Texans. I can see the Texans winning this, but I'm taking the Buccaneers because I think the win means more to them than the Texans. I'll take the Bucs. Who else you got?
I am so sorry, Cardinals fans.
I don't think we have any Cardinals fans that are still around because of how many times you've picked against them.
Well, it's not my fault they're doing terribly right now. When they do well, I will pick them.
Right.
What makes you a true fan is that you're standing behind your team, even knowing that they're terrible, not trying to pretend like the whole universe is against them or they're not really doing as awful as they are.
Look, you're destroying their arguments against you with logic and facts. All right. Don't do that. That's why they don't like you.
It might be too confusing. Still, I'm taking the Browns.
I think that's a damn good pick, but she said it first. And it's in writing. So don't jump on me on that one. All right. I'll take the Saints to beat the Bears. I think that's going to be a close game. I'll take the 4-4 Saints. Go 5-4 against Chicago. I like that matchup. Their defense against the Bears offense. I like that matchup a lot. Who's your last pick? Who's your last cherry pick? Is there a cherry pick left?
There really weren't any to begin with, honestly. Everything's pretty evenly matched coming around this time around. So there's not a clear winner in almost any of the games.
Right.
All right, I'm going to go completely wild. I'm going to say Panthers over the Colts.
The Panthers over the Colts.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of pick that I like. Let me see now if I can find an upset like that. Let me see. I already picked the Titans over the Steelers. The Dolphins, Chiefs can go either way. Nobody's touching that game. So no matter who you pick in that game, that's really not an upset. The Vikings at the Falcons. The Vikings with a rookie quarterback. The Falcons at home. The Rams at the Packers. I got no love for love. So I think I'm actually committed to pick against them for the rest of the season. So I think I have to. Yeah, I got to
Okay.
take the Rams.
Got to take the Rams.
And Matthew Stafford and his bad thumb. I will take his bad thumb, Matthew Stafford and his bad thumb against a healthy Jordan Love any day of the week. Any day of the week. Throw more than 170 yards in a game. Can you do that? I don't care if you do. You're still going to lose. All right. Moving on. That's a run down those real quick.
All right. My picks are Steelers, Bills, Jets, Eagles, Browns, Panthers. Your picks are Titans, Bengals, Chargers, Bucks, Saints, and Rams.
All right. Those are the locks. Let's get them up. We'll get those up on our Facebook page and on Twitter. X. I'm on X. Leave me alone. I'm on X. All right.
Kind of reminds me of having to say the artist formerly known as Prince.
That's
how I feel about calling
X,
it X.
It's now the artist formerly known as Twitter. That's what we're going to go by. The artist formerly known as Twitter. All right. What's next?
Third quarter, DraftKings DFS and best bets for Thursday night football.
All right. You can write these down if you want, but we're going to post them. We're definitely going to post these. I am very proud of these. So the matchup is the 3-4 Titans at the 4-3 Steelers. I am heavy on the rookie Will Levis on this one. I think he'll have an even better week. Like he might throw 275 to 300. He had 4 touchdowns last week. I can see him do, even with TJ Watt trying to sack his ass. You're not going to sack him 35 times. I guarantee that. You might get him 2 to 3 times, but that means 33 other times he's going to get the pass away. And I think he's going to complete a lot of those. And I think he's going to have a hell of a game. These are the stats that I brought up with Jason Anderson on the show. The Steelers allowed 263 passing yards per game. That's bottom third in the league. The Steelers allow 150 rushing yards per game. That is ranked 29th in the league. The Steelers allow 195.3 yards receiving to wide receivers. That is 29th in the league. Well, how are the Titans? Doesn't matter. The Titans are better than that, much better than that in every one of those stats. All right. So, individual props. You want an easy one? I've got DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown at plus 200. That is as much of a layup as I can give you. That's a better layup than LeBron James can give you. All right. Just throwing that out there. I also have a single game parlay. You're going to like this one because if you bet on this one and it hits, you don't even have to bet that much. You better buy me a drink afterwards. All right. 4 picks. A 4-pick single game parlay. I've got Will Levis over 201.5 yards and a half yards. I've got DeAndre Hopkins over 3.5 receptions. I've got DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown. And I've got Will Levis over 1.5 touchdowns. That payout is at plus 1,100. That means for every dollar you spend, you win 12.
Right.
All right. Gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling issue, 1-800-GAMBLER, call it and listen to their advice. I don't have a gambling issue. I've got a winning issue. It's a big difference. All right. It's a huge difference. Do not use that to explain why you have gambling problems. Please get help if you need it. I only bet money that is just like, if I win it, I win it. If I lose it, I lose it. That's the way it should go. Plus 1,100. I love that one. I've got 2 DraftKings build. They're stacks, which means I take the majority of one team on each stack. So here's your Tennessee stack. Your captain for this game is DeAndre Hopkins at Tennessee. That's $16,800. They only give you $50,000 to play, but your captain costs 1.5 times his normal value because he gets 1.5 points, the normal value of everybody else. DeAndre Hopkins is my captain. I've got Tennessee's defense at 4,400. I've got kicker, your former first-round fantasy pick, Nick Folk, at 4,600. I've got running back Derrick Henry at 11,600. I've got quarterback Will Levis in Tennessee at 9,600. and I've got one Patriot, not one Patriot. If I had a Patriot on this, is a problem. I've got one Steeler on this, tight end Connor Hayward from Pittsburgh. Look, for the cheapest people, you just want them to get you any points, because if you're picking all the best players from one team, you're hoping that is a blowout and that they all show up, but you want DeAndre Hopkins to do more. All you want from Connor Hayward is to get you like maybe 30 yards receiving on 2 to 3 receptions. Get you 5 or 6 points to justify for a $2,600 value. I'll take 5 or 6 points, because that means he's not really projected to do anything. So if he does anything, he's worth the $2,600, or excuse me, the $2,800. You have $200 remaining on that. That's a good stack. All right. So what if you're a Steelers fan and you completely disagree with absolutely everything I've said, which has never happened before by any Steeler? Let me tell you, the last time I got in an argument with a Steeler fan, he was complaining, and I couldn't understand what he was complaining about until I finally had him slow down. He said he didn't think that teams from other countries should be in the NFL. I said, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
He said, they've got the New England Patriots in this league.
Oh, Lord. Oh.
And that pretty much tells you all you need to know about Steeler fans and why they argue, or how they argue. But you know what, Pittsburgh? I'm going to show you some love. I put together a team for you. Your captain is the defense at 8,400. Your kicker, Chris Boswell, put him on the team at 7,200. I do have a Titan in there, Derrick Henry, Tennessee, 11,600. Pick up the 2 main wide receivers for Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson at 8,400 and George Pickens at 8,800. That's your Steelers build. You can't say I didn't do anything for you. There you go. You're probably going to lose, because I think Tennessee's just going to run all over you. But any given Sunday, according to Chiefs fans, anything can happen. I can't believe I lost that damn parlay last week because of the Chiefs. All right. So those are your builds. You're welcome. Moving on. What's next?
Fourth quarter, the college quarter.
All right. Yeah. Sometimes we talk a little bit of college football, but what I like to do on this show, I'm going to give you something to watch on Saturdays. I've got 3 games. I've got a 9 a.m. game. I've got a 12:30 Pacific time game. And I've got a 4:30 Pacific Standard Time game. So you can sit on your ass from, if you're on the East Coast, from noon all the way until probably 10:30 at night, watching 3 games. These are the best 3 games to watch in that order. Last week, by the way, I picked the Kansas upset. I told you to watch the game. I told you they could pull it off, and they did.
Yeah.
So I'm not going with Kansas this week. I'm going with Kansas State. Kansas State at 6-2, going into number 7, Texas at 7-1. The spread is only 4, which tells me that everybody expects this game to be competitive. You want an upset in college football this week? Take K-State in Texas. Take K-State. That's the very first game. Start off your day with a win. You're welcome, America. That's just how we're going to do it. 12:30 game, Pacific Standard Time, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Mizzou, Jason Anderson's favorite team. I've got Missouri at number 2, Georgia. That spread is 15.5. Am I crazy enough to pick that as an upset? Hell no. Georgia is going to win this game. I do think it's going to be probably within 2 scores, but Georgia should win this game. Sorry, Jason. Thanks for coming on the show. Hope to have you back. All right. Last game, we've got a Pac-12 meeting again. Last week, we had a good Pac-12 meeting. This week, we got a good Pac-12 meeting. 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. This is the late afternoon game. You'll want to watch it starting at 7:30 on the East Coast. I believe it's on ESPN. Number 5, Washington at number 20, USC. Washington still undefeated at 8-0, taking on 7-2 USC in USC at the Rose Bowl. Come on, in Pasadena. I mean, if once we start taking road trips in our new RV, which we don't have yet, it's in the plans. In our
It's in the
new
plans.
RV, I want to go to a game at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I want to see a
Okay.
USC game. Absolutely. That's one of, as far as college football goes, I don't want to say it's one of the more iconic, but it's one of the nicest places to see a
Okay.
game I've heard. I mean, it's in California, right? It's
Yeah.
it's 5 hours away for us, five and a half, probably 6 hours, depending on who's driving the RV. We may have to hire a driver. That's all I'm saying. We may have to hire a driver because I don't know if I want you behind that wheel. I'm just saying, I love you. Stick to the Chevy track that we have. Okay.
I'm a good
That's
driver. He's just picky, you guys. He's one of 2 people in my entire adult life that's complained about my driving.
look, I'm a professional driver.
Yes.
All right.
So he's
I
holding me up
have
to
driven
a much
with
above bar
Uber.
standard, which
Get
is all right.
this, with
all right.
Uber, I had over 14,000 trips that spanned 9 years. Ask me how many tickets I've had. Ask me. Go
0.
ahead. Ask me.
I already know the answer.
Ask me.
How many tickets have you had?
0.
0.
I had 0 speeding tickets. All right. Now, ask me how many accidents I had during 14,000 trips in one of the worst places to drive, day or night, in America. Ask me. 0. I had 0. All right. Look, so maybe I'm a little bit picky, but I like to live. Okay. So that's just me. Personally, I like to be alive.
One out of 2 people that ever complain about my driving. That's all I'm going to say.
You know what that tells me? Very few people who get in a car with her. That's what that tells me.
My stepdad was almost as picky as you are, but he liked my driving.
I like your stepdad. He sounds like he was an extremely brilliant man.
No, he liked my driving. He would allow me to drive. I was the only one out of all of the children that was acceptable to drive the car.
I think he tolerated. Can we say tolerated? Like tolerated, isn't that?
He
kind
drove
of the
with me
same?
as a teenager, and he wouldn't drive with me again until I was in my almost late 30s.
Wow, that.
And then he was like,
I'm not
you're
sure that
actually a
helped
pretty good
your
driver. And then I
case.
was allowed to drive after that.
I'm not sure that helped your case. I think you just presented evidence in my case.
Oh,
All
you
right.
compare any 15-year-old driver to any adult driver, there should be a very marked difference.
You know, I actually didn't learn to drive until my senior year, and that's because I needed a driver's license to join the Army.
Huh.
Yeah. So I walked to school and back every day, every year since like 2nd grade. If it was pouring out, I got the run in between the raindrops. That's what it was. Can I get a ride? Just run in between the raindrops. You're fine. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. So they trained me to appreciate the bad weather at the time, and then they would yell at me when I ran home from basketball practice in the snow, still in my shorts, because the weather didn't bother me. But I'm like, you trained me for this.
Right.
Why are you yelling? I don't understand. All right, moving on. Couple games that we do want to watch, though, not in the top 25. Army at number 25, Air Force. I think the Army's going to lose again, but I'm cheering for you. Go Army, beat Navy, which, by the way, that's pretty much like we don't care who you lose to right now, as long as you don't freaking lose to Navy next month. I don't care if you lose another game between now and the beginning of December. When you play Navy, that's the only game that matters. That's it. I don't care if you go undefeated up to this point. If you don't beat Navy, life doesn't exist. That's just how it is. Go Army, beat Navy. What do we got there? I got Boston College can actually win this game, by the way. They are at Syracuse. Syracuse is favored by 2. And if you listen to the show, you know that any home team, just for them being home, regardless of how good they are, you get 2 to 3 points on your side. So the fact that they're only favored by 2, people are saying, they might lose this game. And I think Boston College is going to win this game. Eagles have won 4 straight, while the Orange Men have lost 4 straight. This is a perfect matchup. I'll take the Eagles. Oh, yeah, absolutely. What's next? Oh, wait a minute. I forgot Arizona State.
Yep.
Arizona State coming off their second win of the season, 38-27 against Washington State. Kudos to them. They actually got to go to number 18, Utah, this weekend. Do I expect them to pull off that upset? No. Am I cheering for you? Hell yeah. Let's do it. Go Devils. Go Devils. I'm a GCU alum. I should not be doing this. I'm a Catholic school. No, excuse me, a Christian university where I got my master's and I'm on screen doing this. Really? they were going to burn those records right now if they see this. Hey, go Lobes. Go Lobes. Love you. Go Lobes. But you don't have a football team. So why are you listening to the football show? Tune into the basketball show. All right. What's next? Moving
Overtime football origins, Kansas City Chiefs.
Take it away. I'm done. I've lost my freaking mind.
All right. So you can't talk about them without bringing up Lamar Hunt. He was the creator and original owner of what was originally the Dallas Texans. He fell in love with football after watching the 1959 NFL championship game. So he started out trying to purchase the Chicago Cardinals and move them to Dallas. When that failed, he approached the NFL and asked them for an expansion team to be created in Dallas. And when that failed, he ended up being one of the charter members and creators of the American Football League. And so they played in the American Football League as the Dallas Texans from 1960 to 1962. In 1962, they won their first AFL championship game against the Houston Oilers. It was a nationally broadcast game, and it lasted 77 minutes and 54 seconds, which at the time was the longest game in American football history and is still the longest game ever played in the AFL. And it would be their last game as the Dallas Texans. In 1963, Lamar Hunt moved them to Kansas City to get away from competing for attendance against the Dallas Cowboys, who they actually shared a stadium with.
That makes
So
sense.
they were, the AFL just wasn't as big. They were pretty overshadowed. He wanted to get away from that. So the mayor of Kansas City, Roe Bartle, was instrumental in attracting the football team to the city. He made some pretty huge promises, including, I want to say, like tripling the amount of ticket holders.
Oh, wow.
Season ticket holders. But he got them to come to Kansas City, and that is ultimately how they ended up being named the Chiefs. So it was a fan contest that voted on the name. Chief was actually Roe Bartle's nickname.
Oh,
so they
that
did
is
it
interesting.
to honor the mayor of Kansas City that brought the team to the town. His nickname stemmed from his professional role as scout executive of the St. Joseph and Kansas City Boy Scout Councils and founder of the Scouting Society.
You're named after a Boy Scout.
They're named after a Boy Scout. Thought that was
That's cool.
That is not where I expected
No.
to find for the origin of their name. So I definitely had to mention that. In the brief-lived time of the AFL, before being absorbed into the NFL, the Chiefs won 3 championships in 1962, 66, and 69, which made them the team to win the most times during the life of the AFL. They dominated the AFL pretty strongly from what I read.
Yeah.
In 1967, they were in the very first big game, which was then actually considered the NFL AFL championship game. And that was won by Green Bay. From 1960 to 1969, the Chiefs won 87 games, which is the most wins in AFL history. In 1970, the Chiefs had their first big game win against the Minnesota Vikings. This was also the final game before the AFL-NFL merger went into full effect. Although technically that was already considered NFL, I believe. In 1971, the Chiefs tied with the Miami Dolphins in the AFC West. Both teams played a playoff game on Christmas Day that went into double overtime, with the Dolphins taking it in the end as 27-24. The reason I mentioned it was because this game took the place of the 1962 game for the longest NFL game ever played. It was at 82 minutes and 40 seconds. And I just thought that was interesting that the Chiefs broke that specific record twice. in a fairly short amount of time, too.
Yeah.
In 1972, the Chiefs moved into Arrowhead Stadium, which is where they still play today. So when it was built, it was renowned for its acoustics. And I found that extra amusing, especially we were just talking earlier in this very show about how loud the fans are. Like, they're the loudest fans in the NFL, if you ask me. It's one of the reasons I want to see a game there so bad, is I think it would be really, really fun to just be in that environment. Sorry, Seahawks fans, you get a special mention. And a little notable thing, they actually won the first game they ever played in their new stadium, which was against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Nice.
It's the first time I've read that. Doing history of the teams. All right. So from there on, for a while after that, rather, they got into some rough times. 1973 was their last winning season. The team went on a losing streak that lasted 7 years. From 75 to 88, they just rarely won anything. They had a brief ray of hope in 1981 that was worth mentioning. Joe Delaney, a running back, he rushed 1,121 yards and was named AFC Rookie of the Year and gave everybody, like, they had a lot of hope going into the 82 season. He tragically died trying to rescue several children from drowning in a pond near his home. That's one of the weirdest random deaths I think I've ever read about. But sounds like he was an all-around hero. In 1986, they managed to make the wild card playoff appearance, but lost the game. Lamar Hunt fired the coach who got them there for lack of chemistry. That one stuck to me more. Like, all of they have like a lot of coaches. They blew through coaches during their losing time, especially.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that the reasoning was like a little off. Like, they made it to the playoffs for the first time in forever, and lack of chemistry. But it's not like the guy, I'm guessing. The team had quite a rough spell from their first big game win to modern times. In 93, the Chiefs had their most successful season in 22 years. From 93 to 2017, they lost 10 of 11 playoff games. And that's how it was mentioned in the history and everything. And it was made to sound really, really terrible. But my brain went from 93 to 2017. They were in the playoffs 11 times. That's pretty decent. It means you're decently good enough to keep getting back to the playoffs over that period. That's
right.
Even if there was only the one win. So the Chiefs defeated the Houston Oilers and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 94 playoffs, making it all the way to the AFC Championship game before the Bills overcame them. That was the team's last postseason victory for what ends up being 22 years. They began their 2003 season with 9 straight victories, which became a franchise record. Well, was then a franchise record. In 2006, Lamar Hunt passed away. So the guy that created the team, created the AFL, all of that stuff. 2006, he passed away. It was very shortly after he successfully lobbied for a third game on Thanksgiving Day because he wanted his Chiefs to play. So they played the first Thanksgiving Day game in Kansas City since 1951. And then a couple of weeks later, he passed. The team was kept in the ownership of his wife until her death this year and is still owned by their children. That is pretty serious legacy right there, I think.
Yep.
The 2008 was a really rough year for the Chiefs. Their main quarterback, Brody Croyle, was injured in the first game. They ended up with a total of 3 quarterbacks over the first 3 games. The game Croyle came back for, he had a season-ending injury. And so their main backup quarterback that they'd been using between Croyle's injuries, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, Huard, he also had a season-ending injury in the same game, which stuck them with their quarterback, Thigpen, who the first time he played threw 3 interceptions and helped the other team win.
Wow.
They ended up doing like some really weird stuff with their defense that everybody's like, oh, that won't work in the NFL. They just had a shit season. It was 2 wins, 14 losses, which is the worst record that they have today. They tied it again in 2012. Then in 2013, Andy Reid was brought in as the head coach from the Philadelphia Eagles. There were some other coaches that were maybe a little bit mentionable, but honestly, he's the only one that sticks out to me in their long history of coaches. It's Andy Reid. The team started the 2013 season with 9 wins and 0 losses for the second time in their franchise history, and they made it all the way to a wild card game in the playoffs. So he immediately, that's some pretty immediate turnaround anyway you look at it.
Yeah.
And we're going to sidestep for just a minute. So even though the actual origin of the name Chiefs had no relation to First Nations peoples, they ended up using a lot of that imagery and stuff throughout the history of the team. In 2014, the team started a dialogue with the American Indian Community Working Group to make sure any such depictions were being done with honor and dignity. So several changes ended up being implemented, which was continuing to honor tribes with historic presence or connection to the region by celebrating American Indian Heritage Month games at Arrowhead Stadium. They hold a ceremonial blessing of the drum during all home games. They have the blessing of the 4 directions. They regularly feature American Indian representatives as part of game day elements, including national anthem singers, color guards, things of that nature. The club also addressed issues of cultural appropriation with the outright banning of headdresses and face paint at the stadium on game day, and they retired war paint as an ambassador of the Chiefs brand. So I thought that was kind of cool. I feel like this might be, I have heard people talking about why did the Chiefs get to keep their name and brand, but the Commanders had to change. This is part of the reason why, I believe. They made a huge effort with the community to make sure they were doing this right. I have a quote that kind of sums it up. So the Chiefs organization has demonstrated a genuine desire to learn about the issues that are important to the American Indian community. They've listened to our concerns and made meaningful changes out of respect for American Indian heritage. And that's from John Learned, Cheyenne Arapaho, American Indian Community Working Group. So that's that answered a question for me. So I figured I would mention it in case it answered a question for anybody else. So they started the 2015 season at 1 win, 5 losses. And they ended up having a very impressive 10-game winning streak to come back with 11 wins and 5 losses from that. I feel like I vaguely remember that too. That is extremely impressive. They made the wild card game again and won against the Texans. So that was their first playoff win in 23 seasons dating back to 93 that we just talked about. Now, 2017 is the fated year when they managed to draft Patrick Mahomes. Their record that year was 12 wins, 4 losses, and they won the AFC West for the 3rd year in a row. Mahomes finished the season with 5,097 yards and 50 touchdowns, both team records. He was named AP NFL MVP. I don't know what I don't know what AP stands for in that case. I know the other 2 things,
pro.
But okay. The first Chief to ever win that award. He became
Associated Press. Sorry.
Associated Press.
Yeah.
National Football League Most Valuable Player. Got it. Okay. He became the 11th quarterback ever to throw for 5,000 yards. He became the 3rd to throw 50 touchdowns. He joined Peyton Manning as only the 2nd player in NFL history to have done both. That's impressive. That is an impressive first year.
Yeah.
I already found Mahomes impressive to begin with, but sometimes you look at the numbers and they really punch you in the face out of nowhere.
Yep.
So in the 2019 regular season, nope, I wrote that crazy. Yep. The 2019 big game, their first big game appearance in 50 years. They were against the 49ers with a 24-20 lead with 2 minutes remaining. They had a 38-yard touchdown run, which obviously just sealed the win for the Chiefs. It marked the first time in NFL postseason history a team faced 10-point deficits in 3 straight games and won all 3 by double-digit margins. That's pretty cool, too. Mahomes was also named the big game's most valuable player. They made the big game again in 2020, but the Buccaneers walked away with the title that time. In 2021, they made it well into the playoffs, clinching the AFC West, but they didn't advance farther. In 2022, they won their 7th consecutive AFC West championship, finishing the regular season with a 14-win, 3-loss record. They won their 3rd big game victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. With that victory, Mahomes became the first player since Kurt Warner in 1999 to win both the NFL MVP award and the big game MVP award within the same season. And then just my last thing to say is, side note, I think Mahomes Kelsey is probably my favorite NFL bromance, whatever you want to call it.
Current bromance, right? Because if you say it's better than Brady and Gronk, I swear to God.
No, currently in the NFL.
All right.
You're not wrong. Not ever, just current.
All right. That was great information. I loved it. All right. Make sure once again that you go ahead and check out our basketball show on Friday. That is also at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Actually, that's going to be Arizona time.
Yeah.
No. It's still Pacific time, because we don't change clocks, or jump time zones until Sunday. So if you're listening and I sound like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because I don't.
Because we don't have to deal with time zones on a regular.
We don't deal with time zones. It's just how it is. But make sure you check that show out. That is, once again, that'll be live on our Facebook and YouTube channels. And if you miss any of the lives, you can go ahead and hear the recording at heroesmediagroup.com, on Spotify, and soon to be on CoachJeffDemers.com. Until then, that's our show. Keep loving sports. Thank you very much, America, for tuning in. Big shout out to Jason Anderson. I think he comes back for a 3rd time. He's just such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. Maybe we'll give him a couple weeks to heal, and then we'll ask him to come back on.
Let the Chiefs get on an uptick so he can come on and brag.
Right? All right. Yeah, let's wait until they actually beat the Broncos before we ask them to come on. All right, that's it. That's the show. I've said enough. Lady M, let's have a great night.
Bye, everybody.